Welcome to a corner of my room. I figured it was about time I started a little bit of long form content, just kind of telling you guys about things and projects I'm working on, because there is a lot of things that I'm working on and putting a lot of time into, so it would most definitely be beneficial to you to at least know a little bit of what's going on. So first and foremost, I'm Happy Dreamer. Nice to meet you. Second off, I really want to take the time to talk about my webcomic, Walking with the Waymaker, since that is the big project I am currently working on and will be putting the most time and effort into going forward. Walking with the Waymaker follows the story of Vale, who's a young high schooler, moved to a new school and everything, so she is starting like entirely new and entirely fresh life, and she learns for the first time that the Waymaker wants to have a relationship with her. And so this series follows that big encounter and then what it is like for Violet, like kind of a before and after of like, hey, this is what her life was before and like just barely starting out and getting to know this too. This is what it looks like to pursue the Waymaker in his heart and be in relationship with him and the effects and changes that that has on her life going forward. And I think it'll be a really fun, beautiful story. Very slice of life, very cozy, very wholesome, with just little episodes talking about a different aspect of life and what changes it makes to include God, or rather, in this case, the Waymaker in it. This story very much pulls from my life experiences, which I think is probably the most interesting thing. This project has been in development for 2 years now, and just now am I really starting to buckle in and draw more of it and start sharing more of that story, which is really exciting because this has been on this like thing coming. It's kind of funny because this feels like the ultimate culmination of a lot of other things that I like to do, and because the way I like to play with stories and whatnot, I have a lot of characters and they all have their respective worlds and stories. And then there was a period of time in middle school where I was writing a story, but it was more like me journaling and using different namesakes for everyone in my life to journal it out and you like kind of write a bit of a story, I suppose. But it was really just me journaling my life. So, and when I really started taking my walk with God seriously, there was a period of time where it's like, okay, God, what do I do with all my characters? Because I feel like that this creative thing I'm trying to do is interfering with my relationship with you, and I don't want that to be the case. Like, I want God to be my first and foremost, and I want God to be my everything, right? Or at least be my priority. Let me say it that way, because you can't just have God, you gotta have other people. 2 greatest commandments: love God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and love other people as you love yourself. I digress. With having all these characters and not wanting them to be a hindrance to my relationship with God, I felt really strongly at the time to like put them aside and not touch them, not do anything with them again. But that was one of those things that like really broke my heart, because like I'm a very creative person by nature. Like, I gotta make things. I gotta get all these stories out of my head, out of my mind, like put them out there, do something with them. So it's like a bit of a relief to hear God say, don't get rid of them, but you can use these characters for me. You can use these stories to honor and glorify my name. That was like a few years ago. Not even a few, it's like 5 or so years ago now. But drawing close to God and learning what it means to be in a relationship with God myself, and like all it really comes down to is little bits of obedience and little bits of like getting to know more of Him and His character and His heart. And so from that point onward has just been the constant learning what His voice sounds like, learning to be obedient and growing in that. And then come 2 years ago now, I've gotten to a point where I can hear God's voice really clearly. If you don't know what it means, the Bible says that God speaks in a still small voice. And so what that means is that He either plants a thought or idea in your mind, He puts a feeling on your heart. It's not always an audible voice as people would like to think. I've heard God's audible voice. This video here, I've shared that whole story. I haven't heard Him like that since. It's not always about hearing His audible voice, but hearing His voice and like knowing what God is saying and having that like always be in line with the Bible, always bring peace, will bring clarity and give some direction, and it is in line with like other things that God has shown and done in your life. All this to say, we have these prayer mornings at my church on Saturdays, right? And that is time to really engage with God and draw near to Him and be in prayer. Prayer ultimately is just talking with God and having that conversation with Him. There was this Saturday where God had told me the word violet. With that word was like these colors of purples and like pinks and like a light yellow, like those kind of dawn colors, I suppose. And then followed that up with this vision of me floating in space and all these colored lights, like those same 3 colors, like purples, pinks, yellows, were floating around me and like seeping into my skin. And I look up and it's like God in front of me. He's just this like whole being of light. You feel so seen when God shows you these things, and he like sits down with you face to face. But in that moment of feeling absolutely seen by him and loved, like I have his full attention. And both of us just floating in that space, these lights seeping into me, and he places his hand over my heart and says, "This is pure." Like that's a big moment of just showing how much he loves me and also declaring who I am. Because ultimately, God is the one who defines who I am, and I get to live that out. That vision was very much the inspiration, like one of the big inspiration moments for walking with the Waymaker. It's in episode 1, that vision I just described, that is the whole premise of episode 1. I named my main character Violet after that word that he gave me right before, and I decided that would be the name of the character in this webcomic. Depicting God as like the Waymaker. Like, yeah, very much just a warm presence, very much like a whole being of light right there. That was something he kind of showed me. And he showed me that same Saturday morning, like 2 years ago, another vision in tandem with that of the 2 of us sitting down, and God is in that form of light. Like, other people have made this connection, but the winged lights in Sky Children of the Light. It's not a coincidence, because he has shown me other things that, like, he's with me, holding my hand like Sky Kids do. And we go on this adventure together. He showed me visions so much, show me how much he loves me through things that I am familiar with and things that speak to me personally. So if anything, this is more of like just a logical connection, a logical flow of things that he's shown me to depict him in such a way. And personally, I really like it because there's that air of mystery, you know? Like, you have to get to know him to be able to see him clearly and make out who he is. And also, like, the Bible says that Jesus is light. Like, God is light, God is love. All these things. So it just seemed like a really fitting depiction for God. And something that I really like playing with for this comic is that depiction that he is light. He brings vibrancy to the world. He brings color, all these things by having him be the center of the lights and like all these little light things I involve in all the panels to just show that radiant glory, I guess, of God. Like, it doesn't just stay with him, it fills our beings, and he fills us with light and love and like the Holy Spirit. And then we are then vessels of that. In episode 1 and 2, I really play with that idea, especially with the characters who are already like Christians, or in the context of walking with the Waymaker, Waywalkers. That term isn't coined yet in the comic. You get an exclusive. It's gonna be a while before that comes up. Something I really enjoy to play with is the fact that characters who have already like given their life to the Waymaker, to follow him and to live in that relationship with him, one, they have their vibrancy and saturation at 100%. Like, they are full color, the rest of the world's kind of dim, but they are an emanator of that light that God has given them. And 2, it'll probably start becoming more evident as more episodes. I just draw more episodes, but they have golden, like, pupils, irises? The part in the middle of your eye. I'm gonna correct that. Abby, correct that here. To just show, like, we see the world differently. Like, we have a living hope, and that enables us to see the world from God's perspective, and to see things from an eternal perspective. Like, we are not limited to just seeing things through our human eyes only, but we get to see things through the lens of God. And there's more, so much more coming up with that, with like playing with eye color too. And I cannot wait to get to those episodes. I'm not gonna say much now about that. Oh, yeah, something else too. The actual why I decided to start writing this, it was one of those like heavy promptings and like push from God to like, hey, this is something I want you to do. I want you to share your story. I want you to share your testimony. And then he put on my mind, like, make a comic, make a webcomic. Use your art, use your gifts that I've given you. That led to me taking the time to sit down and really write out the whole script of this webcomic. So I'm a journaler. I'm a professional yapper, as some might say. These are the journals that are relevant to this comic. I keep a lot of journals. I like to log down what happens in my life so that I don't forget, and it's really fun to like look back and see what seasons of life I was in, what I was going through. But these journals are very specific to the time of life that I was going through, my high school days, because surprise, I'm actually an adult. You may not believe it, but I am. Because I am pulling from my actual life experiences and sharing from like a personal standpoint what it's like to start living with God and living in relationship with Him. So what I did, I like scanned through these like hundreds of pages and hundreds of stories and like found those moments in my life where I was like learning how to live with God, and then what my life was like at the time, because I'm also a little forgetful. And these help me remember. So I went in Google Docs and wrote out that whole story. I just chose a bunch of little moments in my life that either show what my life was like at the time or something that I learned around that time, and wrote it into an episode. Since it's very slice of life, I feel like I can get away with that, with not having to include every little bit of what my life was like. Which is funny, because right now I'm like, as I'm starting to draw it out, I actually have like 93, 95 episodes in chapter 1. That's a lot. I kind of right now have 3 chapters planned out. They might be really long chapters, but I think it's necessary because I want to show the before and like starting to live with God. And then chapter 2 is the big moment where I had a really big encounter in my life with God that redefined how I see myself, how I see God, and really allowed me to go all in. And it reshaped my identity too. Like chapter 1 is learning about God and like who He is, what's He all about. Chapter 2 is having that real encounter with God and having that desire for Him. And then chapter 3 is after that encounter, what do you do going forward? And how do you live, like going all in for God? I don't know if I want to do more because there is a lot. There's a lot in my mind, there's a lot in my life that's happened, and I don't know if I remember it all. With how long chapter 1 is looking right now, I've been wanting to go back and like go through the episodes and remove some of those really unnecessary ones. Because as fun as it is and nice as it is to show like all the little slice of life moments, some of it can probably be removed because it doesn't really serve that purpose that I want to show of what is it like to live in relationship with God. Thank you, Light Kid, for helping me get a premise of what I was to talk about this entire video. This is all for y'all. So like straight up, if you want to know more about my webcomic, about the process, the story behind it, or really anything, I'm down to answer anything about the characters or the world or the story. Let me know, because there's a lot going on behind it that you may not see, but I am more than happy to share it. So if you have any other questions or things I didn't cover in this initial yap session, drop it below. And if you want to read Walking with the Waymaker, go to Webtoons. Cover looks like this. I worked really hard on it. It's got a lot of really fun art, and I think you will really like it and enjoy it. And I cannot wait to share more of it with you. Thank you for watching. Have a real good day. Subscribe for more, I guess. God bless.